Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Spider-Man Homecoming. We already have Spider-Man Homecoming. And you know what just occurred to me, Eric? It's a little odd. I mean, I realize that Spider-Man's going to be a big summer blockbuster thing, like that's almost a given. But it just occurred to me that the perfect time to release Spider-Man Homecoming obviously would be in the fall.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Homecoming.
Yeah.
But we're already...
The fall has not yet become summer blockbuster season. We've taken over winter.
Winter, right.
We've stretched...
Even occasionally we'll put one in February.
We've begun in spring, but the fall is still safe.
But we are already kind of in a weird time zone, if you will, with this, because the timestamp we get toward the beginning, minor spoilers, is 8 years after Avengers, which puts this in 2020, if we're looking at real time at all, unless Avengers is already later than 2012, and I'm not sure. And we've kind of
we also got a time thing in Civil War that said it's been so many years since Iron Man 1.
Right. So we got to go back and see if that's consistent and how that all matches up. But anyway, so this movie may be in the future, you guys. I don't know. But anyway, so finally, obviously, Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with his own film, mixing it up with Iron Man a little bit. But I think the first thing we should probably say, just right out the gate for folks that haven't seen it yet, is if you're concerned that he's all over the movie and that he takes over, that does not happen. And it's kind of precisely where I was hoping they would go with that, really.
There's another character who was announced to be in this film that I assumed would just be like in the background of a couple of scenes that is all over this movie and I did not expect.
And it totally works.
It totally works.
But anyway, Eric, why don't you give us a real quick plot synopsis? Real simple story here.
Peter Parker is kind of stressed and overcompensating, trying to impress Tony Stark, because he's still in contact from Tony Stark after the Avengers, while also trying to balance all of that with
after Civil War. It's not an Avengers movie, even though it is, Eric.
He's trying to balance that with his school life and his home life, which is exactly the Peter Parker of the comics.
Yeah.
He's a jerk.
Going all the way back.
Accidentally.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy, did I love that. And Vulture is kind of a criminal entrepreneur who's he's a scavenger. He got parts from the aliens that crashed after Avengers, and he's kind of been building tech and selling it to people
because the man's putting him down.
Yeah, which and kind of an underground. And
he had a job. He was happy. He was doing well, and actually, he was always working for himself, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was contracting out and stuff.
Well, and he had a contract with the city and all that.
But wait, how interesting is it? Again, minor spoilers. How interesting is it that the role? I don't think he's done anything between these films. The role immediately after he plays
the Founder.
He's in the Founder, playing Crocs. Croc, I guess. He does this little guy entrepreneur thing. That's hilarious. It's almost like somebody saw the Founder and put him in this movie, but
that's not possible.
That's not possible. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, and then it all comes to a head, and Spider-Man fights the Vulture.
That's right. Spoilers. Spider-Man fights the Vulture. Let's get right into it. Eric, how did you feel about Spider-Man Homecoming?
Spider-Man Homecoming made me feel
Get ready,
like
folks. It's a long board.
I was watching a superior Spider-Man film with amazing casting, spectacular writing that I was caught in the web of Friendly Neighborhood.
I have to take a little bit of credit for that board. That came from a conversation we had at the end of the movie where I accidentally said superior and amazing in the same sentence right after saying spectacular about something.
To be fair, I had already decided my board was going to be this.
Oh, really?
But superior would not have been there unless you said superior. No, it's great. It's wonderful. It's
That's it. We're done. That's it.
Yeah.
Game over, folks. Yeah. That's it. It's great.
Yeah.
Go see it.
It's great. The biggest thing I can say about this, biggest compliment I give this film, is that it feels like the next wave of Ultimate Spider-Man, in that Ultimate Spider-Man was a comic that came out in 2000, looked at the history of Spider-Man, and held nothing sacred and said, all right, what would this look like in 2000, and didn't feel the need to be beholden to exactly how everything was before, and maybe did some things differently, and gave it a real modern context. This doesn't feel like Ultimate Spider-Man, but this feels like
Ultimate Spider-Man again, like reinventing it.
Yes, yes. This feels like a complete modern reinvention update of the Spider-Man mythology and character, and I think it works completely. I think it's great.
And while keeping to the spirit of what that character is, and what the idea is.
Yeah. He feels like Peter Parker more so than anybody that's shown up in the comics for a decade.
Yeah. I'm shocked that it nails that as well as it does.
And they nail Spider-Man and the tone of Spider-Man better than any of the films, like, by a mile.
I think so too.
Like, I really like the Amazing films, and I thought that they captured it better than the Raimi films. This is exactly the tone that a Spider-Man thing should be. Like, it's perfect.
In a weird way, it feels like we're seeing Spider-Man on the big screen for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh yeah, this is what a Spider-Man movie should feel like. What have we been doing for 5 movies? This is it!
Yeah. And again, there's stuff I like about those movies. I don't want
absolutely.
To I'm not. There's no reason to never go back to those.
I'm not throwing those away completely, but this nails it in a way that none of those films ever did. Like, this is just pitch perfect Spider-Man. And also, of all of the Marvel films, the one that most, like, feels lived in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
There's so many little touches and things where it really feels like... it's a thing we always talk about with the superhero universes, where they're always trying so hard to make it look like our universe, that they forget that their universe would look different. This is the universe that looks different. This is the universe that is affected by all the past, decade of Marvel films.
Or on the other side, you can rely too much on the continuity and the fact that it is a lived-in universe, and that stuff can kind of encroach and intrude upon the narrative, and that's not happening here.
No, this is just
Easter eggs and nods
flavor text to the universe, and almost none of them feel like they're legitimate, like, Easter eggs and nods.
Yeah.
They're not like stopping the movie to go, look, we referenced this movie, you remember? Like, it feels so pure and organic.
Yeah. Yeah, does it, so, this might be a stupid question, because I just don't remember. Are we into Phase 4 yet? Or is this still is this the end of 3? Is
Phase
Ragnarok
3 ends with Age of Ultron, or not
with Infinity War.
Part 2, whatever that second Avengers film is.
Really?
Yeah.
It's that far in.
That is the last one, and we know that Spider-Man 2 is the first film of Phase 4.
The reason I ask... Oh, okay, interesting. The reason I asked that question is because I feel like we have weirdly bookended the Marvel films thus far with Iron Man in this movie. This feels like a really weird way a spiritual successor to that first Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that it's like a mirror image of it, but in some ways it kind of is. You've got the young guy who goes through a real traditional superhero origin story, like Iron Man did, but he was an older guy and a rich guy. This is a poor guy and a young guy, and there's a lot of really interesting parallels to those two journeys, and both, of course, obviously massively about responsibility. You've got the guy who throws his money around and he doesn't really care where his where his money's going and what exactly people are doing with his weapons. And then here you've got the guy who doesn't have any money, but is just kind of jumping into the fray willy-nilly because he thinks he's doing the right thing, but he accidentally causes massive problems, and both of them at the end of the day go through a similar but kind of, I guess, mirrored character arc.
Mm.
And especially with some of the stuff we did with Favreau, I feel like we're calling back to that movie a lot in the early days of Marvel.
Well,
and I think that's real appropriate, given that usually you'd start with or start right around Spider-Man. You think with Marvel stuff,
and the ending of this movie kind of gives us a payoff for something way back in the first Iron Man,
and that's part of why I said that. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's almost. it's almost a celebration of the history of this franchise up until this point. And I don't feel like they're patting themselves in the back too much with it. It's real genuine, and just like first of all, the people working on this film are so happy to be here. They're so excited they're getting to work on this material. Best thing, worst thing.
There's so many best things. I'm gonna go with the immediate reaction I had at the end of the film, which is I don't know who this Zendaya person is, but she's amazing and I love her.
Yeah, she's hysterical.
No, she's great. She's great. So I'm gonna go with that as my best thing.
Really, that's
there's
hilarious.
There's lots of stuff I could go with. I'm gonna go with that.
But I love the entire supporting cast.
Absolutely.
I mean, I liked everybody.
Yep. And Michael Keaton's amazing.
Michael Keaton is incredible, and does exactly what you would think you would cast him for, but not he's typecast. Of course, that's why you got him kind of way. And I'm gonna say one of the, and maybe this is easy because people like to complain about the Marvel villains, but one of the best Marvel villains,
absolutely,
hands down. I don't want to say best without giving it some time to noodle, but. He's sympathetic. I know where he's coming from. I feel for him, and we subvert some things with him at the end. It is not what you'd think you would do with the end, especially the Spider-Man movie.
No, there's some kind of risks taken. The final conflict resolves in a very different way than I think I've ever seen in a superhero film.
Yeah, it's great. It's playing with the formula. It's trying to dupe you into thinking it's going to go formulaic, and then it wonderfully doesn't. But again, not in too much of a look at us, we're breaking the formula. Like, it's just the organic way to go.
Worst thing. I don't know. There were certainly a couple things here and there that bothered me, but nothing's coming to mind. Hot Aunt May, still not okay.
Really?
Still not okay. I don't know. I can't think of any. I can't think of anything either specific or not spoilery. So I'm just gonna go with. Oh, you know what? No. Worst thing. Peter Parker's hanging out with Gank, who's building the Death Star, making all these Star Wars jokes.
His name is Ned Leeds, but he's Gank.
Just
from Miles Morales, if you're not
Peter
familiar.
Parker just saw Empire Strikes Back, and his friends Gank love Star Wars? Nonsense!
No, well, it could be that Gank showed it to him, and that he doesn't really care about Star Wars that much. And you don't really get a sense that he's a Star Wars fan.
Actually,
but what's weird about it?
He has Star Wars toys on his shelf. I noticed them.
Oh, Peter Parker does?
Yes.
Okay, that doesn't work.
Nope, doesn't work at all.
No, that doesn't work at all. Okay, that's really problematic. Now, the way they work in the bits that we got of him in Civil War, I think, are incredibly consistent and well woven in.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fun stuff done with that. And I might have thought that would be overkill, but it's hilarious. It's really, really well handled.
This movie is like simultaneously like as funny as a Spider-Man movie should be, and as serious as a Spider-Man movie should be. Like it nails its tone.
And I'm sure some folks I'm sure that won't be what some people want, because people like to complain that the Marvel movies are too comedic anyway, and then
but you can't complain about the Spider-Man movie.
I wouldn't think so either. But I'm just playing devil's advocate. I imagine that, and I understand this from people that is like, well. It's unfortunate that it's this late in the game because I'm already tired of laughing every time I go to a Marvel movie, or being told to laugh every time I go to a Marvel movie. But the genre we're in here is comedy. I mean, it's a drama, but it's a teen comedy. Yeah. And once again, whole new flavor than we've gotten from any of these movies so far.
Yeah. No.
We are once again in a totally new genre.
They said they wanted to make it a superhero John Hughes movie, and it's kind of a superhero John Hughes movie.
Yeah.
I will say there is.
I'll go as far as to say I wish the tone, and I'm sorry if I'm bringing this movie up too much lately, but it's just been on my mind. I wish the tone of this was closer to what Power Rangers was.
Yeah. Or no, you wish the tone of Power Rangers was closer.
That's
to
what I'm saying.
Yes.
I wish Power Rangers was closer in tone to this movie. I think this accomplished some things it thought it was doing that it didn't quite nail.
I mean, I'll say there's one...
Tonally.
There's one joke that jumped out at me as the... Well, yes, we all know that we're in a movie and we have to make fun of dramatic movie scenes. There's one thing like that where I was like, yeah, we live in a self-aware world. I get it, but other than that, I like it's a Spider-Man movie. What do you want? Like, this is not the movie to complain about humor
I think,
from.
And I don't want to harp on this too much, but it'll be interesting to see what people say, because this is not me talking. I mean, I loved this, and I thought that the humor was exactly it was really well integrated.
And we should say neither of us were excited to go see this. We had a conversation before we went and saw this movie about
that. I wanted to be more excited than I was.
Yeah, neither of us were super excited to see this movie.
I think it could be kind of unfortunate that this came right after another comedy.
Yeah.
For people,
and
it looks
better.
like Ragnarok is also going to be quite comedic. And I don't have a problem with that. I want to take these movies on a case-by-case basis, but I get folks that are waiting for more of these movies to be more straight-up serious pieces. But anyway, I guess I'll flip my board. Eric, this movie made me feel like I was watching the sharp-witted CW high school drama I've always longed for. This, in so many ways, is... Well, I was getting Buffy vibes all over this, and in a good way. Like, I feel like Whedon will watch this film and fall in love with this movie. I feel like Whedon could have made parts of this movie, and so like I said, I got some Buffy vibes, but it feels like it's just what I wished Smallville was, and some other kind of teen, high school dramas where you've got kids that do that, and like the thing knows that they're kids. They know they're kids. They will do stupid things, and then they will learn from them. They are reasonable human beings. They are reasonable, empathetic human beings who screw up like kids are going to screw up, and who don't understand how the world works yet, but they're self-aware, and they realize that. A lot of them. And the ones that don't clearly have a lot more growing up to do than the other characters, and you can imagine, like people like Flash Thompson, that you can, if his last name is Thompson, I'm actually not sure about that.
We're real weird with names in this movie.
A little bit. But I imagine that guy down the road, grows up a little bit. And you also have characters with the teenagers at different points of maturity, which I really appreciate. Like, it seems to be really in tune not only with how adolescents really are and really act. Everybody feels like real people in this movie, but it also gets what they're like and what the culture is like now, and we don't get that a lot.
Which is something that I think we tried at in the Amazing films. We tried to get away from the clicky thing. That's not really as much of a thing anymore, and we tried that. This feels more modern and more right now.
Yeah, you have
in a way that Spider-Man should.
What feels more like a modern bully to me, and like humiliating people as opposed to just like hitting them in the face and shoving their head in a toilet and that kind of thing. And it even kind of acknowledges. I mean, there is some like, you guys are nerds. You're stupid, we don't want to hang out with you. There's a little bit of that kind of thing going on, but by and large, I think it kind of acknowledges how much the world has changed. Since the people making this movie were kids, and the way high school was,
Yeah, because the thing that's always said about teenage stuff is nobody's ever writing about teenagers right now. They're writing about what their teenage life was like.
Exactly.
And this doesn't feel like that. This feels like a genuine attempt to write about teenagers now.
So without giving too much away, you are the biggest Iron Man fan on the planet. How did you feel about how Tony Stark was integrated? We talked about how he's not here too much, but how did you feel about his characterization and how he was integrated?
There were a couple of scenes where I thought we went too broad in comedy. The ending scene was one of them, where I was like, well, he's not a buffoon.
Okay.
But he has my favorite line in the entire movie, which he needs to show up. He needs to get out of his weird techno coma and show up to the champions and say, because they need it bad, which is, stop talking, the adult is speaking right now. And I love that, because that's the movie saying, he can make mistakes.
He really isn't ready yet.
Yeah, he really is a kid, and he really is messing up,
but he's so endearing all the way through.
Yeah, and you can do that. You can have a teenage character that is a great person and is really, really smart and really doing their best, but they're still a kid and they're still going to make mistakes. They're still going to mess up.
That's great.
And the movie can acknowledge that. I liked him a lot. I liked him.
I like how
I like that he's got the Ultimate Armor color scheme, but it's not the Ultimate Armor. Sorry.
I like how his history and what we know about him going all the way back really informs his character in this. This is not just generic mentor guy. It is the Tony Stark we've been dealing with, and furthers some of the. I mean, he doesn't have a whole character arc in this, but it furthers. I mean, he feels
he has some
differently.
Character development.
Yes. Sure, I suppose. I mean, he's real well developed already, but I mean, like, he doesn't think the same way about some things at the end as he does at the beginning. So I guess in that way he has a bit of an arc, but he, but so it isn't really the next chapter of Tony Stark, but where he is right now is informed very much by what we just did with him in Civil War and just before that.
He's not in this movie nearly as much as, like, if you're worried that it, like, there's the big shot, the one that I think is on the poster with him flying and Spider-Man swinging, is that in the movie?
I was looking for it. I never noticed it.
Yeah, no, this is not the Spider-Man Iron Man team-up movie. Like, if you're worried about that, that's not what it is.
Once again, just remember, trailers are there to get you to the theater, and that was fear that Spider-Man for MCU won't sell a movie as well by himself because people are leery after that last franchise. That was smart business. Luckily, we also have smart movie making and smart storytelling.
Absolutely. Tony Stark is here in a way that makes complete logical sense, building off of Civil War. He's in the capacity that he needs to be in this story, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
It feels like the rest of this movie, it feels organic and natural. It doesn't feel like it was some kind of mandate, like, well, we have to have Iron Man in this movie.
And I also like the idea that if this was intentional, that there's maybe a feeling that because the Marvel movies are so successful and they have so much confidence in them, and the Spider-Man movies not so much by this point, that there's maybe a sense of training wheels. And while Spider-Man is getting out of his training wheels, the movie is doing the same thing. And I think that might be intentional. Would you agree with me if I were to say that while Peter Parker is very much a kid and he has that place where he needs to let the adults talk, Tom Holland does not have that problem. And he is every bit of the actor that the big heavy hitters have been.
Absolutely. He's amazing.
He's amazing. And spectacular. Not superior. He's right in the same league as those guys.
Well, he's superior than the previous Spider-Mans, maybe.
I believe so. Yeah. Now, I love Garfield. I also really like Garfield. And they're doing very different things.
Yes. No, they're very different, and he's more age appropriate.
Right.
But no, I'm one of the biggest defenders of Garfield. I love Garfield, but jury was out for me on Tom Holland after Civil War. I was like, well, we'll see. Yeah, because after Civil War, people started being like, well, he's the best Spider-Man. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't see enough of him. I need to see this guy in his own movie before I can make a judgment like that. But I think he is. I think he's the best Spider-Man.
I liked in Civil War what the take on him looked like it was. It's also, as everybody said, as a lot of people have said, kind of in interlude where suddenly the movie stops and we have to meet Spider-Man for a minute. I still, to this day, and after seeing this movie, don't entirely buy Tony Stark going to him and thinking that's a good idea. But Tony Stark is also a real eccentric guy that is not always the most responsible person, even though, ironically, he ends up having to be Peter Parker's mentor. And I really like that, too, because he has had to learn a lot of the lessons that Peter Parker is going to have to learn, and we've already seen him do that. And that's a lot of why, in a weird way, this sort of works as a passing of the torch movie, even though it isn't that. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have more Robert Downey playing Iron Man, and he's not giving Spider-Man an Iron Man suit, but it's almost, I mean, we've had these long enough, it's almost like you're going to a new generation. I mean, in that sense, it is a passing the torch thing.
Yeah, no, it feels kind of passing the torch, and we don't know how much longer Robert Downey's going to be around.
You know what I mean? Like, Peter Parker has lived half his life now since the first Iron Man movie.
Iron Man 1, yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting. It's just nuts how much time has passed and how long we've been in this universe now.
Yeah, it's a decade next year.
It's wild.
Yeah.
What else, real quick, should we talk about before we bid everybody adieu? We're gonna do a spoiler cast on Sunday, so we'll talk all the ins and outs of it then. And I don't know who all will be there, but Dan Torrey will definitely be there. So if you're wondering what Dan thinks of this movie, you'll get to hear from him on Sunday. All of that classic Spider-Man iconography that you would hope you'd see from the Stan Lee days. It wins its way into this, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really have anything else to add until the spoiler cast, I guess.
We should probably mention that finally we've gotten our our wish has come true, that we get multiple Spider-Man villains, or at least setting up Spider-Man villains.
I was going to mention that, yeah.
And that and that we started doing this a little bit with the Amazing movies, but I like that you have the minor villains.
It learned the lesson that superhero movies seem to have trouble learning, that the Nolan films taught us, that no one paid attention to, is pecking order. You can have multiple villains, but they can't all be up here. You have to have the villains at the different tiers. You have your villain, and you can have other villains, but they can't all be the main villain of the film. And this movie learned that lesson.
It feels in the right way, in a good way, almost like a pilot for a TV show. And we've talked about other things that are that in a bad way. Mm-hmm. But what I mean is, we're not rushing stuff. We don't feel like because we've only got 2 hours, we got to hurry up and get issues 1 through 75 or whatever into our movie. We seem real confident that we're going to have a long history with this character. This does not feel like the first of 3 films. This feels like the first of 9 or 10 films.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like they're really confident that they're going to keep making these movies and tell a big story over the course of them with this character.
I thought this was so fresh. I feel like people who don't like Spider-Man will maybe suddenly like Spider-Man.
Yeah,
in a similar way that I suddenly liked Wonder Woman. I think it manages that.
Especially people that don't really read Spider-Man comics and just haven't cared for the films. I think especially those people, because I know people like that who don't read a lot of Spider-Man and just hate the movies and think that Spider-Man's really whiny.
Right. And he doesn't have that problem.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, it's very much that Stan Lee thing. I didn't give a worst thing, so I guess I'll do that real quick.
Yeah.
There is one big plot point in the third act that seems real convenient to me, and I can't decide if it's a problem or not. I can't decide if I mind it or not.
I did not have a problem with it.
It is so classic Spider-Man. I want to love it.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
There is a real pretentious part of me that's like, nope, can't do that. City's too big. It's too convenient. You can't have that.
I felt so Stan Lee to me.
It did, and that's why I want to be okay with it. Beyond that, I didn't have a lot of issues with it. Like I said, probably the best thing is how incredibly simple this story is, and it's emotionally complex, and there's plenty of things to dig into and talk about. It handles the responsibility message in a super subtle way. I mean, it totally works. It's not like that word is never said.
Well, I said to you when the credits hit, I said, wait, you can make a 2-hour movie and no one says with great power comes great responsibility?
In any capacity, in any way.
Not even trying to fancily reword it.
I don't think Amazing 2 did it, but anywhere.
I mean, but, what is Gwen Stacy's speech?
I knew you were going to say that, yeah.
If not that, but broken into 3 paragraphs.
I was a little surprised when we got to the end that it was already almost over, and I don't mean that it was rushed or that it was too short or anything. I was just like, oh, really? You guys aren't going to cram any more than this in? How refreshing.
Well, but at the same time, when we got out, I mentioned something from earlier in the film, and you're like, that feels like 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, it's wonderfully dense, but it's dense with character stuff and comedy and living in this world, and it's not just representative of comic book things and characters and stuff. It really digs into everybody.
Yeah. I went into this feeling like, it's just another Marvel movie, and that's kind of how I feel like it was sold. It's the best one since Civil War. Like, I didn't love Doctor Strange, and I didn't love Guardians as much as everyone else did. It's my favorite one since Civil War.
And it's so different. It just doesn't feel like the same, the same thing we've had with some other movies.
And it doesn't feel like it's trying too hard, which is really important, especially with the comedy.
Is completely different from anything they've made. The closest thing is Ant-Man, interestingly.
Yeah, probably.
Because the movie isn't rushing, but the characters are, because it's the hustle and bustle of everyday street life, and it's kids, and it's people who are always on their phones and living through technology, and so.
Well, and like Ant-Man, it's able to keep the scale down.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the giant beam in the sky, and like this doesn't have to get to the whole city is in danger level.
But you notice, it lives and breathes, and yet the way it's cut sometimes is real ADD, because we're in Peter Parker's head, and he thinks a mile a minute, and that's the way the film is paced. There's a balance in a juggling act there that I'm extremely impressed with.
Yeah.
Folks, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. We will see you again, like I said, on Sunday for the spoiler cast. Look forward to that. I can't wait to go see this again. So jazzed. So anyway, we will see you again very soon. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments and let us know what you thought of this if you saw the film. And we'll see you again soon. I am Captain Logan.
All right.